What happens when a new veteran neighbor moves in? The local bully gang quickly regrets testing him. Let's dive to see. In the quiet town of Maplewood, where life moved at a steady pace and everyone knew each other by name, something unusual was about to happen. A new neighbor had just moved in, a man named Victor Kane. He wasn't like anyone else who'd ever lived on Elm Street. Tall and broad-shouldered, with dark hair streaked with gray, Victor carried himself with an air of calm confidence that made people stop and take notice. Victor didn't talk much when he first arrived. Instead, he spent his days fixing up the old house he'd bought, hammering away at loose boards and painting over chipped walls. But it wasn't just the physical changes he brought to the neighborhood. It was the way he seemed to carry a weight on his shoulders, as if every step he took held meaning. Some said he looked tired, others thought he looked strong. Either way, no one could deny there was something different about him. The kids in the neighborhood were curious. They would gather near Victor's yard, watching from afar as he worked. One boy, however, wasn't content to simply observe. His name was Marcus Drake, and he was known around town for being tough, the kind of kid who got what he wanted without asking nicely. Marcus led a group of friends who called themselves the Hawks. Together, they ruled the streets of Maplewood, making sure everyone knew who was boss. When Marcus saw Victor moving into the neighborhood, he smirked. "Another pushover," he muttered to his friends. "We'll show him how things work around here." But little did Marcus know, this time he'd picked the wrong person to mess with. It started small. At first, Marcus and the Hawks would ride their bikes past Victor's house, shouting insults and laughing loudly. Sometimes they'd throw rocks at the fence or kick soccer balls onto Victor's lawn, knowing full well they wouldn't pick them up afterward. Most neighbors would have complained or called the police, but Victor never said a word. He just kept working on his house, ignoring the noise outside. One day, Marcus decided to escalate things. He marched up to Victor's front porch while the older man was trimming bushes. "Hey, Gramps," Marcus shouted, leaning casually against the railing. "You gonna clean up your yard anytime soon? It looks like a dump." Victor paused, turning slowly to face Marcus. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then, in a voice so calm it almost sounded friendly, Victor replied, "Son, I'm not worried about what my yard looks like right now. I'm focused on building something better." Marcus laughed, thinking Victor was scared. "Building something better, huh? Good luck with that." And with that, he turned and walked away, feeling proud of himself. But deep down, Marcus felt uneasy. There was something in Victor's eyes, something hard to explain, that made him feel small. Weeks passed, and Marcus continued testing Victor. He vandalized his mailbox, broke one of his windows, and even tried sneaking into his garage late at night. Each time, Victor handled it quietly, repairing whatever damage was done without complaint. This only fueled Marcus's anger. How could someone let him get away with so much? Then came the day everything changed. It was a Saturday afternoon, and Marcus had gathered the Hawks for another attempt to intimidate Victor. This time, they planned to steal tools from his shed. Armed with flashlights and gloves, they crept through the backyard, whispering to each other. But before they could reach the shed, a voice stopped them cold. Having fun? They froze. Standing behind them, silhouetted against the moonlight, was Victor. His arms were crossed, and his expression was unreadable. "We weren't doing anything," Marcus lied, trying to sound brave. "Just passing through." Victor chuckled softly, shaking his head. "I've seen enough troublemakers in my life to know when someone's lying. Now you boys have two choices. You can either leave right now, or you can stay and learn why messing with me was a mistake." Marcus hesitated. No one ever talked to him like that. Before he could respond, one of his friends panicked and bolted, running toward the fence. Marcus cursed under his breath, realizing he'd been backed into a corner. "All right, we're leaving," he snapped, backing away slowly. But as he turned to go, Victor stepped forward, blocking his path. "I said you had two choices," Victor reminded him, his voice low but firm, "and you haven't made yours yet." For the first time in years, Marcus felt fear. Not because Victor was yelling or threatening him, but because of the quiet strength radiating from the older man. Without another word, Marcus ran, disappearing into the darkness. After that night, things began to change. Marcus stayed away from Victor's property, but the incident weighed heavily on his mind. Why hadn't Victor yelled or fought back? What gave him such control? These questions haunted Marcus, keeping him awake at night. Meanwhile, Victor noticed the tension in the neighborhood. People were afraid, not just of Marcus, but of the chaos he brought wherever he went. So, Victor did something unexpected. He reached out. One evening after finishing dinner, he knocked on Marcus's door. When Marcus answered, he looked surprised and nervous. "What do you want?" he asked defensively. "I want to talk," Victor replied, holding up a plate of cookies. "That's all." Reluctantly, Marcus led him inside. Over the next hour, Victor shared stories from his past, stories of hardship, sacrifice, and redemption. He spoke about the lessons he'd learned during his time serving in the military, about the importance of respect and responsibility. At first, Marcus listened skeptically, but gradually he found himself drawn in. "You don't have to be like this forever," Victor told him at last. "You're young. You've got a whole life ahead of you. Don't waste it proving you're tougher than everyone else. Prove you're better." Those words stuck with Marcus long after Victor left. For the first time, he began to question the path he'd chosen. Was bullying really worth it? Did it make him happy, or just empty? The second twist came weeks later, when Marcus discovered the truth about Victor. While cleaning out his attic, he stumbled upon an old newspaper clipping. The headline read, "Local Hero Saves Dozens During Fire Rescue." Beneath it was a photo of Victor, younger but unmistakably the same man, helping carry injured civilians to safety. Tears filled Marcus's eyes as he read the article. All this time, he'd assumed Victor was weak, but the truth was far greater. He was a hero, someone who had risked everything to protect others, even strangers. Overwhelmed, Marcus sought Victor out the next morning. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice trembling. "For everything. I didn't know." Victor smiled gently. "Everyone makes mistakes, Marcus. What matters is what you do next." From that day forward, Marcus chose a different path. With Victor's guidance, he turned his life around, using his energy and determination to help others instead of hurt them. Together, they became role models for the entire neighborhood, proving that even the toughest shells can crack open to reveal the light within. And so, the story of Victor Kane and Marcus Drake became a legend in Maplewood, a reminder that sometimes the strongest people aren't those who fight hardest, but those who choose peace over conflict and understanding over anger. That's the story, friends. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a pleasure sharing it with you all. Don't forget to comment below and let me know where you're watching from. It's always fun to see the global reach of these stories. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button for more amazing stories, tips, and tricks. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. If you'd like to show some extra love, tap the 3 dots near the share button and send a super thanks.